Hey everybody, my name is Jessie and this is my first ever YouTube video. I'm going to be doing the BookTubeNewbie Tag. There's lots of them out there, but this is just a good way for me to introduce myself and get you to check out my videos. So let's get started. So the first question is, why did you start this BookTube channel? Well, I read this study that said after the age of 35, you're pretty much stuck in your habits. So the way you dress, that hairstyle you've been rocking since you were like 19, I hope you like it, because you're going to be having it till you're like 89. Well, I'm sure the validity of this study is up for debate. It still got me thinking that I am already pretty comfortable in my life right now, and I could totally see myself in 75 years from now, like settled in nicely in my Jessie-shaped couch groove, surrounded by 150 cats. And while that sounds, let's admit it, pretty nice, I thought it would be a good idea to push my boundaries a little bit, get outside my comfort zone, videotape myself, which makes me want to vomit. I don't like being looked at, but you know, I want to learn new things. I want to learn video editing. I want to connect with a community that loves reading as much as I do. Start reading outside of my regular genres that I read in. The second question is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? Obviously, everybody has their own personality, their own types of books they like to read, their own things they would suggest to other people. So, I mean, everyone has a pretty unique perspective that they can bring to this community. I have some really good ideas. I want to do a once a month drunk book review with my friends. So embarrassment will ensue for sure. So what am I most excited for with this BookTube channel? I am excited to try to be less nervous. I'm excited to share my opinions with other people and try to get people reading new books. I'm excited to learn from others and get some new book reviews. Combine two questions. Why do I love reading, and what types of books do I usually like to read? There are two types of books that I normally read. I really do not stick to one genre. I read a whole bunch of different kinds of books, but the first general type of book that I love are introspective narratives. I want to walk away from a book feeling like I understand more concretely what it is to suffer from the human condition. I want to feel absolutely gutted by a book. I want to feel that book hangover for days. I want to read prose that is so beautiful that I have to read that quote out loud a couple of times, even if no one else is around. Just because it's so beautiful, it needs to be sounded out. I find that Canadian literature has an outstanding ability to evoke those type of emotions in me. I don't know what it is necessarily, but like Marilyn Robinson, Margaret Atwood, Miriam Treves, Margaret Gibson, Jill Anderson. These authors, every time I read something that they write, blow me away. I just love them. So that's the first type of book that I like to read, and I think that also answers why I like to read. The second type of book that I like to read are purely for entertainment. I love sci-fi and I love fantasy. I love Brandon Sanderson, Philip K. Dick, Stephen King, like the Dark Tower series, amazing. If you haven't read it, pick it up. I'm not normally a Stephen King fan because I don't usually read horror or suspense books, but the Dark Tower series was amazing. Patrick Rothfuss, Neil Gaiman, these are authors that if I see their books, I'll generally pick them up and give them a read because they're guaranteed to just be entertaining, action-packed, unique, and just take me to another world that I love reading about. You want me to read like a mystery or a romance, or read about white teenage angst or love triangles between unicorns and werewolves? Like, I don't have time for that. I just don't want to. Throw some androids at me, or just complete and utter mind benders, I'm yours. Like, sign me up. I want to read those sorts of books. I want to have two questions. When did you start reading, and what book or series got you into reading? So I think, like a lot of other people who like to read, I don't really ever remember not reading. Like, clearly I was not reading Kafka in the womb. I had to have progressed somehow into reading the books I read, but I just remember always reading. Like at Christmas when I was a kid, I would get books. When I was really young, like 6 or 7, and probably up until I was about 10 or 11, I read a lot of Sweet Valley High. I was super into that. the fantasy genre. The book series that got me into that was Piers Anthony's Xanth novels. I remember finding those in the library when I was young and just being like, oh my god, like these are so cool. I realize now as an adult they're not very cool and they're really sexist and full of bad puns, but I'm still a sucker for puns, so I can totally see how I got into it as a kid. I did this thing for a lot of my life that I'm trying to get out of right now, and I hope that this community can help me, is that when a book is really popular, I tend to not want to read it. So even though I'm a little bit too old for the Harry Potter stuff, like a lot of people my age were reading Harry Potter when it came out, and I was like, that book's lame, I'm not gonna read any of those books. I'm too cool for Harry Potter. And then like 10 years after the first one finally came out, I picked one up and I was blown away. Like, I love Harry Potter. It's my favorite book series of all time. It's like everyone's favorite book series of all time. I love Ron Weasley. I love Harry Potter. I want to be a wizard, but I'm a lowly, lowly muggle. As hard as I try, I'll never be a wizard. I don't want to do that to myself anymore. I don't want to have these preconceived notions about books. I want to give them a try. And if I don't like them, whatever. Right now, I give myself, if it's a longer book, I'll give myself 200 pages. And if I'm still not like sucked in that 200 pages, then I'll stop reading it. But 200 pages is my cutoff. So I'm looking for books outside of my normal genres that I like to read, and I'm excited to try some new stuff. What challenges do I think are going to be the biggest to overcome on this YouTube channel? Obviously being really, really self-conscious and critical of myself when I'm like editing and going through everything. I'm going to try to just learn to be more natural, and that's going to be the hardest part, not to be so critical of myself. Where do I read? Well, I listen to audiobooks, so I like to read when I run. I like to read when I walk back and forth to work, and by read I mean listen to audiobooks. I also love my e-reader, my Kindle, so I'll take that with me everywhere. If I'm traveling, I'm reading on the airplane, I'm reading, you know, when you're in transit, whatever, and I love to read before I go to bed at night. I'm sure most people are like that. I find I can't really fall asleep unless I'm reading. So those are the places I like to read. I also have a lot of other hobbies and stuff, so I'm not the type of person who's gonna rip through like 50 books a month. I'm not gonna make you feel bad about how many books you read, because I don't read that many books. And then when I do, I pick up like giant books. I'm reading right now Seven Eves by Neil Stephenson. It's huge. And so the last question I have to answer is, what question would you ask your favorite booktubers? And my question is, what book or series of books made you change your perspective on something? So maybe you went into a book thinking that you had a certain idea, and by the end of it, your idea was changed. Your perspective had shifted. I think those sorts of books are really interesting, and I'd like to know if you've had that experience, what that book was. Watching, please subscribe. I hope to have a lot of fun in the future. The next post I want to do is about Halloween books, because I love Halloween. It's my favorite time of year. And I don't normally read horror or suspense type books, so I'm going to try to read a few and tell you about them, see if you should read them. And thanks a lot for watching. Bye.